YouTube doesn't tell you when my new videos are out unless you click that notification button and you're subscribed, so be sure to do that. And please, click the like button, guys, to keep this channel growing. Thank you. Despite setting off the metal detectors, one UPS employee on June 14th was allowed to enter the UPS facility without any trouble, then began to end the lives of two of his coworkers with the supplies he had brought with him. It's called going postal for a reason. You're watching Darkness Prevails, the best place to share your creepy stories with the world, because this world is a strange one. UPS drivers have scary jobs, delivering packages to every type of neighborhood. Most places are nice and quiet, sure, but there's always that old dark road that has you regretting your job choice. These are 5 creepy UPS driver stories. Number 1. The Disturbing Scene, submitted by Janet K. I'm going to tell you about the experience that had me quit driving for the UPS. Now, I'd been working for UPS for a little under a year at the time. Otherwise, if I'd worked there longer, I would have been a bit more hesitant about quitting. But when you see something like that, you don't want to risk seeing it again. And believe me, delivering packages in the neighborhoods I had to visit, there was always a chance of seeing what I saw. If you ask any UPS driver about some of their creepiest experiences, you're going to get some of the usual and still quite creepy stories. Stories about UPS trucks being followed for miles, only for the person to finally speed past at a random stop. Sometimes it makes you want to drive back to the UPS building and just call it quits for that day. Then there are stories of weird customers. I even worked with the guy who told me about this one man in a wife beater he delivered a package to. Turns out the guy flat out admitted to stealing someone's credit card to buy the package that was being delivered. It was none of our guy's business, so he kept quiet. But before leaving, the filthy man made a passing statement, saying something like, "Tell anyone, and it wouldn't be hard to find you, UPS man." Yeah, who knew that you'd be putting your life on the line just to deliver people stolen Christmas presents? Anyway, my experience is, sadly, worse than these that I've listed. At one time in my UPS career, I delivered to a neighborhood that looked like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It was a scary place. Random electronics in the front lawns, roadkill all over, dogs running about that looked like they'd pass from starvation if they couldn't find some human baby unattended to eat. I'm not ashamed to admit that at one point, I was so scared of that place that I left a package at one door, knocked and left right away, only to remember that that package required a signature. I got written up for that. Anyway, one day, I had a package to deliver at the far end of a cul-de-sac in this neighborhood. I didn't recognize the address entirely and realized it was a house I hadn't delivered to before. I took a deep breath and kept reminding myself it'll be over quickly. I delivered 3 out of 4 of the packages in the neighborhood before reaching the final destination, the cul-de-sac house. Each of the houses there looked like they were abandoned. At the end of the drive, that house I had to deliver to in particular was the worst looking one. In fact, one of the side walls appeared to have been burnt to a crisp, and you could see right inside from my angle. Surely, no one actually lived there, right? So I parked the truck, got out, and went to the back. I grabbed the package, then quickly power walked to the door, still having trouble keeping myself from thinking that someone was sneaking up behind me, or that some mangy dog was about to jump me for some spare leg meat. I hurried to the door, then paused when I saw that the door was already open. If I knocked, the door would open further, and if I left the package here without knocking, I'd be in the wrong. I went ahead and knocked. As the door widened a bit, to be expected, I prepared myself to slide the package inside. Then I could simply shut the door, if it would close at all. But as I began to lower the package, I saw it. eyes staring back at me. They were wide open, coming from the most disturbing expression I've ever seen someone make. There was a man lying on the floor, lifeless, and I don't think he was breathing. His neck was twisted in an unnatural way facing the door. There was a pool of red still flowing underneath him. When I saw his throat, the deep separation in his skin, I vomited, and I broke into a run right back to the truck. You know, when you watch crime movies and shows and see people discovering bodies like this, you never really think about what they're thinking. But in that moment, I had only two thoughts: that I've stumbled upon a crime scene, and whoever took their life, how close are they still? I remember driving at twice the speed limit, fumbling with my phone to call the police, and choking on bile that kept rising in my throat. My stomach felt like it had imploded on itself. I was so terrified. I didn't come back to work for the next day, though they didn't really expect me to. But I didn't come back at all. I was done with that. I didn't want to deliver to that neighborhood, and I didn't want to deliver to any of the dozens of similar neighborhoods throughout the Midwest. Driving and visiting strangers' houses, it's something I never want to do again. Number 2. The Suspicious Package, submitted by Gary. I worked as a UPS driver in Oklahoma in the mid-2000s, and let me tell you, that was a dangerous and scary time for anyone delivering packages. There were talks of packages and envelopes traced with anthrax, among other things, and any driver or worker in the delivery service had an underlying fear that the box they were loading into the truck might be laced with something. Violence comes in all shapes and sizes, I suppose. Well, even being as scared as we were, nobody ever truly thought it would happen to them. And enter my story. I remember it very well. It was a Wednesday, plenty of jokes going around all that morning about it being hump day, how we were halfway to drinking and sleeping all weekend. Once we had the boxes loaded into the truck, I strapped in and took off to fulfill my deliveries. I was halfway through those deliveries several hours later. It was early evening where the sun was just above the horizon. Soon, I had come to the next stop. I was just outside the truck and had my package in hand after having grabbed it from the back of the truck, and I was ready to deliver it to the door of this resident, when suddenly my phone rang and the beeper went crazy. I grabbed the beeper first. It read, "Urgent, UPS." What the heck, I thought. I've never gotten any sort of message like this before. I picked up my phone, holding the package close to my chest with one hand. I blew something out of my mouth that had fallen on my tongue, presumably dust from the box because it had been sitting in the dusty old storeroom. "This is Gary, what's up?" I answered the phone. Before I even finished my salutation, someone was yelling in my ear. Gary, park the truck and don't move. The feds are on the way, just stay calm and stay in the truck, do not deliver another package." Okay, now I was worried. "What's going on? What happened?" "Gary, one of your parcels might be contaminated." "Contaminated? How? With what? With which package?" I was breathing heavily and awkwardly now as the panic set in. "Anthrax, Gary. The invoice number for the package is..." She read the number to me. Then I heard our manager behind her scold her for saying anything. Apparently, that was more than she was allowed to say. I was freaking out. I could feel my legs trembling below me. Then I read the label on the box I had in my arms. The number matched. I wanted to die right then and there. I mean, I was going to anyway. Holding a package laced with a toxin so fatal. How could this have happened? Who in the world would send this to someone? Why were humans so violent and hateful? The thoughts raced through my mind as I felt the unfairness of the situation. The thought that, of all the people on the planet that very moment, I was the unlucky lottery winner of random anthrax poisoning. Then I wondered, what was it going to feel like? Will it be painful? Will it be slow? Should I do something to end it now? I stood still. I didn't climb back into the truck. I didn't throw the package and run. I just stayed frozen to the spot. When the FBI and hazmat arrived, it simply confirmed everything to me. Confirmed that I really was going to die. Before long, I was being sprayed from head to toe, stripped of my clothes and confined to a room in a makeshift hospital setup until I was transported to an actual contained hospital and told to wait. Basically told to wait and die. This is where it ends though, because luckily, I was alive for another week, and then another week. I was perfectly fine. Tests were run and nothing out of the ordinary was found in my system. When I was told I was going to be fine and released, I cried. I cried like a grown baby man. Turns out, here's what happened. One of the UPS employees that had loaded the truck had taken note of a package with a suspicious substance along the folds of the box. It was only after I'd delivered most of the packages that he spoke up, having made himself paranoid the entire workday. That substance turned out to be traces of a certain drug from a different package. Nice. What my friend didn't know is that unless it's being stored, forms of anthrax aren't really seen. They're often sprayed as aerosols, so you wouldn't know it was there until people started falling left and right. At least, that's what I think I know. This story may have just been a freakout, but it put me in a spot where I felt real fear that the worst actually did happen. Number 3. Followed. Submitted by Daysee. I've been working for the UPS for the past 10 years, and for a time I thought I'd experienced everything. People threatening me, people trying to jump me during a delivery, a woman crying to the police that I had touched her when I wasn't even the one that had delivered to her. But there was one experience during my 6th year that really takes the cake. It must have been 6 p.m. I had a few more hours to work that night. It was already dark, and I was enjoying some music on a classic rock station, trying to make the time pass by more quickly. I noticed at one point in the side mirror that someone was right behind me, riding a little too close in their vehicle, and they appeared to have their brights on as well. What a jerk, I thought. I'd always hated people blatantly flashing their brights. What did they want? People to drive or crash into a ditch because they were blinded? It made no sense to me. Anyway, I kept driving, ignoring the rude driver behind me. I turned a corner, then another corner, and then another. I made 2 more deliveries, and each time the person behind the UPS truck stayed behind the truck. He didn't go around after I'd stopped twice. Instead, he kept the same distance from the truck. What was he doing? I was starting to get a little freaked out. After delivering the second package, as I walked back to my truck, I decided to take the chance to approach their vehicle, to ask if they needed something. Sometimes people do follow the truck and try to get us to stop or come up to us when we're stopped to get their package early, which honestly is extremely rude and disruptive of the entire process. As I got close to their car, I still couldn't see inside their vehicle, but what I could see was a hairy and long arm holding and tapping a knife on the side of the car door. It was a silent warning, don't come any closer. What the heck? I backed away and climbed into the truck. Before taking off for the next address, I texted my wife and manager, telling them if I'm not back at such and such time, separate times for both, to call the police. There was nothing I could call the cops over at the moment, but I didn't feel safe, so I'd keep these 2 updated on my journey. My manager replied almost right away, asking what was up. I replied with a quick, "Being followed. I'll keep you updated." I continued on to the next destination, but this one was much further out than the previous one, taking me into the nearby countryside. The houses began to get more spaced out, and soon it was just woods on either side of me. As I was so focused on the road, I was startled when my tire suddenly blew out. The truck came to an abrupt stop as I nailed the brakes, and I slapped the steering wheel, thinking, great, a terrible night just got worse. Before I opened the door, I nearly screamed when I saw that someone was at my window. It was a man in a hood. He was holding the same knife as before, tapping it against the glass and shaking his head, warning me silently of what apparently will happen if I got out. Then I felt the back of the truck open, people walking around, packages being removed. I pulled up my phone and dialed 911 but didn't call because the passenger side of the vehicle, which was open, suddenly sank a little. I looked over, and a different man in a hood, but the same kind of knife, was looking right at me. "What did we tell you? You want to die tonight?" he warned me. I shook my head without a word. He climbed out and they continued their robbery. After it was all over, I felt them go around the truck, slashing the tires, effectively stranding me on the road. Then one of them climbed inside, took my phone and smashed it onto the dirt road. After that, they left. My heart pounded for another 30 minutes after that. Once I was calmed down, I got out of the truck and began to walk to town. There wasn't a single package left in the truck. I was fine though, and that's what mattered, right? Apparently these guys had ordered a package to their address in the woods, and had planned a package heist basically, waiting for me to drive over their nail trap on the dirt road where no one would see what they were doing. And because of my job, I could have died. I don't know if they would have really used those knives, but I wasn't about to find out. Those guys are in jail now, but I'm just left working UPS and wondering when they'll let us bring firearms on deliveries. Number 4. I saw it in the headlights. Submitted by Dave P. I drove a semi for a couple of years, then quit to get a more local and stable job. I loved driving and figured I'd apply to drive for UPS. I was hired on, and I was paid a surprising amount more than my semi job to deliver packages, and I got to come home to my family every night. Now, I drove for a small town in southern Kansas. The place was very peaceful and quiet. Never too much traffic on the roads, always friendly faces from the people who answered their doors. Well, I did have something quite chilling happen one winter night, something that's still unexplained. I was driving down a dark and wooded road, making a regular delivery to a sweet senior lady we drivers referred to as Lady Linda. That woman always gave the drivers some sort of baked sweets, and in return we'd give her little schnauzer a treat. It was one of my last stops, and I was always looking forward to seeing Linda. Suddenly, I found myself flattening the brake pedal. My eyelids were nearly peeling completely off of my face, and my heart was pounding. I saw something in the road that shocked me so bad, shocked me more than anything else. There was something kneeling down and tearing into the flesh of what appeared to be a massive buck. It looked to be easily 8 or 10 points. I could see from the fog coming from its mouth that it was still very much alive. The thing that was over it, chewing it up and eating it alive, it was human in shape, and at first I even thought it was some hunter who had tracked his prey down onto the road where it had collapsed. But they weren't wearing clothes, and the vertebrae in his back protruded so far that the bones appeared to nearly be breaking the skin. Then I watched its head twist, and its face turn to me almost instantly. Maybe I gasped, and it had heard, but it didn't make sense why it waited until now to acknowledge me, considering the motor was still running. But that face, it was disgusting and horrifying. It was long as a horse's face from the top of its forehead to its chin. and between the missing nose and its chin was a rip that was apparently his mouth. I confirmed this when it opened it, screamed like thousands of sharply nailed hands raking down chalkboards, then bounded into the woods. I was breathless. What the heck did I just witness? I looked at the deer and it was looking at me as if asking me to end his misery. But I was so scared. I climbed into my truck and decided that I'd tell my manager that I couldn't deliver the package that night because Linda didn't answer her door. I never saw anything like that again, but nowadays I'm more wary than ever when I deliver down those old back roads. And number 5, working for UPS, submitted by MadameLaminade. A lot of people ask me if delivering packages is stressful. Yes, it is, especially on holidays. Making your rounds is more stressful than ever. But sometimes things happen that make your job much, much more difficult and terrifying than it ever should be. This story is one such example. Now, most of our drivers are men, so being the only female driver in our town at the time, it wasn't really strange, but it was kind of weird for some people. I got along with my coworkers and they thought nothing of it, but it was the reaction of my customers that rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it's because we're in the deep south, but maybe not. I had plenty of men and women tell me that this wasn't a woman's work. Hearing things like that made me question whether it was 2016 or 1960. Anyway, there was one specific guy that I soon started to hate delivering to. But because he regularly ordered things from Amazon, and I mean almost every day, I saw him almost constantly. This man would greet me at the door before I ever knocked, or rang the bell, apparently waiting and watching for me to show up. He would greet me with a too wide smile, a smile that looked far too big and wicked to even fit on his face. At one point, he began leaving his door open when I came, and would request that I leave the package inside the house, and that it was okay if I came inside. Alright, I don't want to come into your house, dude, I thought. And then he started offering me food and drinks when I came, asking me to come inside and to take a break. It was weird. The guy tried really hard to get me to come inside his house, but truthfully, even if I wanted to, my deliveries did not afford me the time to take a random snack break. I kept telling him no, and over the months I think I told that man 200 times no, but he never took the hint. Scratch that, that man was ignoring a complete fact. I wasn't interested. But then came the day, that day. He had yet another package that I was to deliver, and I came to his door, which was once again open. I knocked and placed the package on the doormat, but as I began to walk away, I heard something. A faint and weak, "Help." It was him, and he sounded in pain. I called back, "Are you okay?" "Please help me," he replied. I slowly opened the door, and I saw him apparently having a stroke or seizure on the floor, foam coming from his mouth. When I saw that, I had a choice: stay here and call an ambulance, or run inside. My mother often had seizures when I was growing up, and I knew what needed to be done. Keeping that in mind, quickly and frantically, I ran inside and placed a pillow under his head, and just as I was about to give him something to bite down on, I saw that he was now smiling. I gave him a confused look, and then he spoke to me. "I knew you'd come inside." Oh, I was pissed. He really thought this was funny, that he would go to psychotic lengths to lure me inside his house. This guy was maniacal. I stormed out as he called after me. I drove straight back to the store, and I told my boss what happened, stating that I refused to ever deliver anything to him again. Screw that. Thankfully, my boss understood, and I've never seen the man again. Next time, no matter what, I won't be going into anyone's house. I'll just be calling 911 instead. We live in a time when, with the touch of your finger, you can order something and have it at your door the next day. If you didn't want to and you had the money, you could have everything you've ever needed and wanted right at your door without you ever leaving your home. But because these people who deliver the packages to us are delivering valuable things, and because they're driving all over to every kind of place, they have seen some scary things and have even risked their lives at certain points. That might mean that one day, before the drones are ready, you'll have a new option beyond same-day delivery, something along the lines of armed and protected delivery. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget, you can send me your scary stories to appear in future videos. I'm currently looking for stories about people who have worked in the Amazon warehouses and those who have worked in Firewatch. You can send your stories at darknessprevails.org/submit. If you want to support this channel even further, download my free app Spooked to get all my content in one place, from scary stories you can read to all my newest videos. Just click that link in the description. Or think about donating $1 a month to get your name in the credits of these videos. Go to patreon.com/darknessprevails. Also, if you get a little bit of extra cash, or someone's birthday is coming up, get them some Darkness Prevails merchandise at morbidmonsters.com. As always, here are my 5 favorite early comments from the previous video, about 3 creepy bosses. Santino the Bambino says, I'm expecting at least one mafia story. Now there's a video topic I've never even thought of. Takes note, steals your idea, and thank you, Santino. Connor Reed says, YouTube equals creepiest boss. They don't even talk to you. This is 100% true. They take almost half of your earnings and never tell you any of their new rules or updates, but they completely expect you to abide by them. Perfect sense, YouTube. Here, let me make you even more money. Ooh, I could rant all day about this crap. Don't even get me started. Turi T says, this video made me not want to work. Oh, don't you make me do unemployed scary stories, 'cause I will. Timothy Martinez says, Darkness, who is your boss? My bosses are threefold. First, YouTube, who makes sure I upload family-friendly content on a freaking horror channel. Then they take half my cash, so that's great. After that, there's you guys, who make the channel possible, keep me happy and entertained with what I do for you, and you're who I want to please every upload. That's the fun part of the job. And then there's my wife, who starts to miss me if I work too long, and miss our Monster Hunter World gameplay session. Oh yeah, talk dirty to me, baby. Nergigante. And Donnie Yeager says, you're very talented. I'll wait another day to take your soul. You know what, Donnie, just take it. Jesus Christ, it's so stressful anymore. Human rights being taken away every day, censorship on YouTube getting worse. All so I can eventually afford a treatment at the dentist so my teeth and gums stop hurting. Oh, and to eat. Ain't that nice? And that brings us to the end of this video. More scary stories are soon to come. Here are the credits to my patrons who donate and make my life worth living. Until next time, stay safe out there and stay creepy.